Two men are seen running for their lives as someone is hunting them down. They get to the elevator and one presses the button while the other draws his gun to fight off whatever is coming. He peeks around the corner to assess the situation, and he immediately gets headshot out of nowhere. The other guy begins panicking even more, but he takes the gun from his dead friend and intends to use it to protect himself. As he sees the attacker's shadow approaching, he fires a couple of shots and quickly gets into the elevator. As he does this, the hitman who's after him walks around the corner and makes direct eye contact with him. As the man is in the elevator, he takes a moment to process the fact that the Fable hitman is after him. Fable is a legend in the underworld, and you know he's good because he's currently doing parkour off the side of the building to catch up to the elevator and get to target. The man knew it was a bad idea to start human trafficking, but he did it anyway, and the consequences have come to bite him. Everyone, even his boss, has been killed. He was in the middle of making a deal to sell a bunch of people, then he got headshot out of nowhere, followed by everyone else in that room. He was the only person who managed to make it this far, so he's determined not to die. As the elevator reaches the ground floor, the man steps out and immediately catches a straight in the neck from Fable. Since the wound isn't immediately fatal, he calls for the guards to kill Fable while they have the chance. But as one fires at him, Fable dodges the bullets and immediately headshots the guy. The other one is slightly better and manages to knock his gun out of his hand, but even in hand-to-hand combat, Fable is unmatched. The first guy managed to reach for his gun while Fable was distracted, but he doesn't have a clear shot since Fable is using the guard as a meat shield. The trafficker takes the shot anyway but misses. However, Fable hits right on the mark. He has officially fatally wounded all his targets, but to make sure they are all dead, he reloads his gun and double taps everyone. Afterwards, he heads over to his ride where the girl behind the wheel asks if he's alright since she heard a few gunshots. He says he is fine, but dealing with those guys was really annoying since they were all amateurs. So since it's done now, he just has one thing he wants to do: watch his favorite comedy show. The girl doesn't understand how Fable could possibly have it in him to laugh so much right after he killed 5 or 6 people, but he doesn't see a problem with it. All those guys were human traffickers anyway, so there's nothing to feel bad about. She takes him to the dock as usual, where Fable takes apart his gun and discards its barrel into the water, and afterwards, they both head back to their base. The girl talks with their boss and explains how everything went with the mission, but she'll never get over the fact that Fable can laugh so hard at a comedy show when he's got more bodies than he can even keep track of. Just then, Fable returns from the bathroom and gets told to sit down because the fish is ready, but he doesn't really like fish. As they get ready to eat, their boss complains about how hard being a hitman has gotten in the last few years. Everywhere you go now, there are those pesky security cameras, so you've got to be even more careful now. But Fable just seems to be more worried about the fish. The girl assures him that she made sure to destroy all the cameras before the mission started, and the boss asks Fable if he knows how many people he has killed in his 6 years of being a hitman. Fable never kept count of things like that, but the exact number is 71. And every person he has killed has been either a Yakuza boss, a politician, a president, or something, so the price for getting info on them is really high. They've already spent 100 million yen on info brokers this month. Fable still doesn't care about it and is more concerned about his fish, so he gives it to the girl, telling her to blow on it for him since it's too hot. Fable asks the boss when their next job is going to be, but he says there won't be a next one. They've done too many jobs this year, so they're going to have to lay low for a while. The boss pulls out a bag full of cash and tells Fable that this is the money he has earned from all his recent. He does the same with the money the girl has made recently and pulls out a plastic bag full of cash for her. They'll both take this money and go hide out for a while. He's going to go through the effort of making a fake driver's license and insurance card for Fable and the girl. There's a certain group he has connections with, the Yakuza, so he'll set things up so that they don't have any problems with Fable, but the same goes for him as well. They are meant to be laying low there, so they aren't allowed to cause trouble either, so they should move to Osaka and live a quiet life. Since the girl isn't done cooling off the fish, Fable asks why he needs to move all the way over there if they are just meant to be laying low, but the boss thinks it will be some valuable experience for him to learn how to adapt to a new environment. It'll help with his job as a hitman as well if he can blend in perfectly with ordinary people. Fable isn't opposed to the idea since it sounds like it will be fun, but if he kills anyone while he's on break, the boss will personally drive up there to end him. Later, Fable and the girl head over to his apartment so they can pack his bags, but there isn't really much for him to pack in the first place. She gets his attention to show him the driver's license the boss made for him, and he used the worst photo imaginable for it. The name on the card is Akira Sato, so that's his new name. In the meantime, he is busy going through the house, bringing out all the guns he has stashed all over the place, and he has stashed quite a few all over the place. He asks the girl if the house has already been arranged, but she isn't sure of that yet. But she has also gotten her fake ID, and her name is Yoko Sato. Since they have the same last name, things could go one of two ways, but Yoko clarifies that they'll be siblings, not a married couple. Akira asks if he can see the photo on her ID, but it was so bad that she refuses to let him see, no matter what. Yoko warns Akira that the boss told them not to bring any guns while they are laying low, but he isn't planning on taking them with him. He's just going to leave it in the microwave so the boss can come and pick it up later. If that's the case, then she asks why he only brought out 2 of his guns since she knows he has a Nighthawk as well. Akira admits that he's still got that one, but he disassembled it, so it shouldn't be a problem. Yoko says it's definitely going to be a problem since it is still a gun, but it means a lot to him, so she lets him keep it, even if the boss ends up getting in trouble for it. They leave to begin their new life together, and while they are riding together, Yoko asks Akira why he chose to become a hitman. He doesn't feel inclined to answer her questions, so he asks her how she ended up in this line of work in the first place. So she explains that when she was 10 years old, her house burned down, killing both her parents in the process. For some reason, the boss decided to take her in and taught her a bunch of illegal stuff. Then eventually, she ended up as Fable's assistant and getaway driver. Since she has revealed her backstory, she wants Akira to do the same, but he still refuses unless she shows him the picture on her driver's license. They argue with each other as they continue down the road, and once they finally take a break, they are getting ready to head into a convenience store. But as they stand up, Akira warns Yoko that the 2 guys over there are car burglars. He can tell just by their general demeanor, so he tells her to head in without him so he can watch the car, and also to get him a coffee on her way back. He then takes his seat on the bench nearby and watches as the burglars look for their next target. He is silently rooting for them to go after his car that has 50 million in it, but these guys aren't professionals, so they walk right past it. However, they turn around and spot Akira staring at them, so they make him their next target instead. He really doesn't want to fight, so he gives up and complies with their demands immediately. But then they make the mistake of touching him, and his hitman instincts take over, making him throat punch one guy and readjust the other one's chin. At the same time, Yoko had just gotten back with a coffee and she's freaking out because the boss will warn them specifically not to kill anybody. Akira says it's not his fault since they attacked him first, and besides, they are probably still alive. Yoko drags him back to the car and drives off so they don't get dragged into any trouble over this. She tells him he can't be beating people up like that every time someone annoys him, because if he keeps going off like he did just now, he's going to end up killing someone. Akira thinks about it for a second, and he now realizes that not murdering people may be a little harder than he had first anticipated. They finally reach Osaka, so Yoko gives Akira a quick reminder that he needs to speak in the local dialect so he can blend in. Fortunately, Akira has mastered the ability to switch dialects on a whim, so he doesn't think that will be a problem. Akira asks about the Maguro group, which will be helping them get a place to stay. He may have worked with them in the past, but that was 3 years ago, and he never actually met them in the first place. He just killed a guy they wanted dead. Since that's the case, Yoko explains the whole structure of the group. They have 20 members, and they are the only Yakuza group in the area, and their boss is called Hiroshi Hamada. In the group, the only ones who are aware of their situation are Hamada and his appointed captain, Takeshi Ebihara. They drive further into the city, and once they finally park the car, Yoko has a look of disgust on her face as she watches Akira do whatever this is. He says it will allow him to flip the switch in his head and speak with the local dialect, and once he is done, his technique seems to have been really effective since he speaks exactly like a local now. Since they've got their accents down, Yoko suggests they go shopping for some new clothes for Akira to stop giving off the killer vibe. Meanwhile, over at the Maguro group, Ebihara is asking Hamada if it's really a good idea to be harboring someone as dangerous as Fable Hitman. He's met a lot of dangerous people throughout his life, but Fable is a different breed of dangerous. However, while the boss agrees that it's not ideal to have to house him, the Maguro group has no reason to be scared of him as long as none of them kill his dog or something. Besides, all they are doing is giving him a place to stay for a while, so there shouldn't be much trouble from him. Hamada doesn't know much about Fable in the first place since he has never actually met the guy, but the things the former boss had told him about Fable make him sound like a walking disaster. On the job he did for them, he was tasked with taking out the Semikan group, and he did not disappoint. He took out the boss and every single member of that group in under 2 minutes, and almost every corpse was taken out in one shot, either to the head or to the heart. He was able to single-handedly destroy a rival Yakuza group with no trouble, so Ebihara wonders if it is really possible for a human to kill people so mercilessly, but he has no idea. Normal people feel reluctant to take a life, and even trained killers feel some amount of guilt, but Fable is the kind of person to wipe out an entire family and eat hamburgers on the way home. As far as hitmen go, he's a genius at killing, and said genius seems to have just arrived as one of their men comes to inform them that the Satos are here. Hamada and Ebihara both get up and head over to the conference room to meet with the legendary hitman, but as Akira enters, they are a little thrown off by the makeover Yoko gave him because he looks harmless now. They welcome both Akira and Yoko, telling them to make themselves comfortable and sit down. And to start, Ebihara has a question for Akira. He knows he is meant to be a genius at killing, so he asks what he would do if he had to kill both himself and Hamada right now. So considering the current situation, Akira decided that the best course of action would be to crush Ebihara's throat and then take the gun in his pocket. From the outline in his jacket, he assumes Ebihara brought a .22 caliber revolver, and he was pretty close, but it's actually a .38 caliber. Hamada scolds Ebihara for bringing a gun into the meeting room when things like that are strictly prohibited, so Ebihara apologizes and says he just didn't want to be unarmed if he was meeting a famous hitman for the first time. But his question hasn't been completely answered, since even if Akira took the gun from him, it only has 5 bullets in it, so how would he handle the 10 guys that would rush in as soon as he tried anything? Akira doesn't think that would be a problem either, since he could always just take the gun that Hamada brought in with him as well. Hamada admits that Akira is right, but Ebihara doesn't know how he could have possibly figured it out. Akira has his way of figuring out things like this, but he doesn't know how to explain it to other people. Moving on, Ebihara tells him that the only people who know of their true identity are him and Hamada, so he's got to keep that in mind since the others think he is just a regular dude. Maguro is glad to have the 2 perfectly normal Sato siblings live here, but there are some ground rules they need to set first. They'll be provided a house, and they are free to live there any way that they want, but if they get into any trouble, the Maguro group won't clean up after them in any way. Plus, if they end up causing a lot of trouble, they may decide to kick them out of the house immediately. Yoko believes those rules will be easy to follow, so Hamada tells Ebihara to take them to the house they'll be staying in. But as they get up, Akira seems to be staring at Ebihara a little too much. Ebihara asks him if there's something wrong, so Akira tells him that he's got a nose hair sticking out. On the car ride to the house, Yoko scolds Akira for pointing out something like that when there was no reason to do so. But the sight of the nose hair was bothering Akira, so that was all the reason he needed to point it out. They arrive at the house Ebihara is showing them, and he says it's the same one he and a couple of other members used when they were in trouble, so it's already got some furniture in it. He leads them into the garage and shows them his car as well. It's an old hobby of his, so he's really proud of it. The door behind the car leads to the house on the 2nd floor, and it's got everything they'll need, but while they are here, Ebihara has an extra rule he wants to add. Under no circumstances are they to ever touch his car. Akira says he has no interest in an old car like this, but he also points out that Ebihara's nose hair is showing again, so Yoko apologizes and says she will teach Akira some manners later. With that aside, Ebihara has something he wants to ask Akira. He has heard all the rumors about him being able to kill almost any target in one shot, but Ebihara doesn't blindly believe rumors, so he wants to see it for himself. He hands Akira his revolver, and Akira doesn't have a problem with showcasing his skill, but Yoko is greatly opposed to it since it's a bad idea to shoot a gun indoors. Ebihara says it's fine since it's only old people living around here, and most of them don't give a damn about what happens anymore. But Akira doesn't look very skilled with how he handles the revolver since he drops the gun on the floor. He isn't used to revolvers, but that doesn't mean his aim is any worse. He asks what Ebihara wants him to shoot at, but he says he'll tell him what to shoot at soon, and he'll need to find and shoot it in 2 seconds. Fable says he is ready, so Ebihara calls for him to shoot the security camera, and Akira takes the shot, but it looks like he just shot a random wall since Yoko points out that the camera was on the other side of the wall. Akira says he shot at that spot because it bothered him more than the obvious security cameras, but there's a bigger problem at hand because Ebihara is upset that the shot Akira fired ended up causing debris to land in his precious car. Akira doesn't think it's his fault since Ebihara is the one who told him to shoot, but before Ebihara can blow a head gasket, Yoko steps in and tries to calm him down, promising that she will make sure the car is cleaned until it's spotless. Her charms seem to calm him down, but after Ebihara left, he asks the guy driving to pull up the security cameras for the garage. As expected, one of the two cameras is broken, meaning Akira actually spotted the hidden tiny camera and destroyed it in one shot. But Akira isn't the only skilled one there, since Ebihara is shocked that Yoko managed to pull on his heartstrings so easily. He tells the guy to keep an eye on them at all times, and he means it when he says at all times. Inside the house, Akira is already busy making sure that the Maguro group can't keep an eye on him by getting rid of all the cameras they had hidden throughout his room. After he's done with all that, he heads up to the rooftop and stares into the sunset, wondering what he's supposed to do with his new quiet life for the next year. Just then, he notices a woman in one of the neighboring buildings, and he seems to find her interesting in a way. That night, the guy Ebihara tasked to keep an eye on Akira is up and ready to begin spying on them with all the cameras that were planted in the room, and he is paying extra special attention to the footage of Yoko changing. So much so that he had to pull out a bottle of lotion to help him see better. A while later, Ebihara enters the car, but there's a funky smell in the air for some reason. The guy lies and says he just ate his dinner, but that aside, Ebihara asks how the surveillance is going. The guy says the cameras in Yoko's room are working fine, and he is absolutely sure of that. But all the ones in Akira's room seem to be broken for some reason. Ebihara had expected as much since Akira was able to spot the hidden camera in the garage, but the guy has a few questions about why Ebihara is so insistent on watching these siblings, because for all intents and purposes, they seem to be perfectly normal. Ebihara doesn't hide his intentions and says he wants to chase those two out of town, since even if boss Hamada is okay with it, he doesn't agree with the arrangement that was made. Seeing that Ebihara is serious about this, the guy asks just who those two really are, but there are some things that need to remain secret for his own good. All he needs to know is that they need to be sent packing. Ebihara has parked a minicar behind the one they are in right now, so he wants them to switch to that one so that Akira doesn't recognize them as part of the Maguro group. Meanwhile, Akira is spending his night as any normal hitman would, cleaning up his prized gun while butt naked at his desk. Just then, he gets a call from Yoko, and she invites him out for a night of drinking to celebrate their vacation. Akira isn't so enthusiastic since he can't relax at the counter of an unfamiliar place, but Yoko seems to love it. The mobster that Ebihara had instructed to get Akira and Yoko evicted is outside the bar and assumes the two are just having a moving-in party, but orders are orders, so he calls up one of his friends and asks him to send over his buddy who used to be a professional fighter. Inside, Yoko is enjoying the scenery while Akira is busy looking around the room for any possible threats. Yoko tells him to stop since it's rude to stare at people like that, but it's a habit of his and he's only doing it because they are in an unfamiliar town. So he's got to take note of the building layout and the people here. Yoko tells him to just relax and have fun, but Akira doesn't see what's so fun about what they are doing. They're just drinking in a bar. Akira asks if she's going to find a hobby for herself, and Yoko already knows exactly what she's going to be doing while she's here. She's going to get herself a hot boyfriend, so Akira had better not kill him. Outside, Takahashi's friend and the kickboxer have finally shown up, so Takahashi tells them that they are going to be beating a guy up, but just enough to scare him and maybe break a few bones. As Akira and Yoko leave the bar, Yoko is clearly drunk while Akira looks like he didn't even have anything to drink since his body is so resistant to alcohol. Just then, they get cornered by the guys Takahashi called, and he knows where this is going, so he tells Yoko to go home for now. The kickboxer gives Akira a kick, but he just tanks it and stays upright. Once again, Akira tells Yoko that she had better go home now because if these guys hurt her, then he may kill them. But if he's on his own, then he knows how to handle the situation. Yoko takes the hint and leaves him to do his thing. With Yoko gone, the short guy steps up to fight Akira, but Akira can tell that he has no training whatsoever, so as he throws a punch, Akira moves his head in a way that ends up breaking the guy's fingers, but he still pretends to get her as well. He does the same thing as the guy tries to kick him, blocking it with his elbow and fracturing the guy's shin, but also still acting like he took the most damage. After his friend was done, the kickboxer stepped up and Akira already has a plan to take care of him as well. He starts with a high kick to the head, so Akira slips out of it, but make it seem like the hit connected so the guy will see him as a wimp. Then when he throws a punch at him, he gets it lined up to cause him to start bleeding, and then starts crying to make them feel bad about attacking him. Akira is truly a professional even when it comes to looking like a loser. As he was about to get up, he was approached by that woman from earlier who offers him a handkerchief to clean off the blood on his face. But he refuses and says he is fine, so she leaves him alone and runs off to do something. Later, Takahashi pays his friend and the kickboxer for the work they did, but he only gives them 5,000 yen each. He praises the kickboxer for beating Akira up so badly, but the kickboxer felt like something was off because he knows he didn't land the kick that hard. And Akira actually seems to have enjoyed that little act he put on, so his time here may be more enjoyable than he thought it would be. This was the end of episode 2. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to not miss the next part.